Alberto Del Rio is one of the most famous wrestlers, winning the top titles in WWE before suffering a steep fall. This is Wrestling Up, and here is the rise and fall of Alberto Del Rio. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Up and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Alberto was born into one of the most well-known wrestling families in Mexico. His father was Dos Caras, and his uncles were Mil Mascaras and Ciso Delico. He began in Greco-Roman wrestling, and in 1997 he won third place in the World Junior Championships for the Mexican national team. He won the Central American and Caribbean Games and even won a medal at the Pan American Games. He would be a part of the 2000 Summer Olympics, but unfortunately due to lack of funding, Mexico did not send a wrestling team. I was winning everything, all the Greco-Roman tournaments. It's just that year is when we needed to go to 10 different tournaments in order to qualify, and Mexico didn't have the money, or had the money and didn't want to use it on the wrestling team, and that's what stopped me from going to the Olympics. And when they said we only have money to go to 2 qualifiers, I said okay, there's no way we're going to qualify, I'm out of here, and I became pro. Much like his family, Del Rio entered pro wrestling at a young age. After he didn't compete in the Olympics, he realized it was time for him to enter the family business and made his debut at the May 9th, 2000 show in Lucha Libre AAA Worldwide as Dos Caras Jr. He saved his father from a beatdown, and that was the beginning of his career. He started to work in Mexico primarily for AAA and Japan. He continued in this manner for 4 years. At the same time as he was entering the dramatic world of pro wrestling, Del Rio decided to put his legitimate fighting skills to work. He started off in a big way, fighting in the deep MMA promotion in Japan. There he got 3 wins and 2 losses, defeating multiple names before finally facing Mirko Cro Cop in Pride Fighting Championships. He would become the 10th fighter in a row to lose to Cro Cop. Later, he would realize that he was fighting out of his own area of expertise. He was knocked out in the first round of the fight, but that would give him valuable experience and he would become a better known name. When I was training with Marco, we had a lot of people training with him. Fujita, Babalu, Barrera, we had a lot of fighters in Marco Ruas camp, and I was beating the crap out of them in the gym. That's why Marco was pretty confident that I could do it. I thought I could do it. Of course, destiny said no, and Mirko was the stronger and faster fighter. He continued to wrestle and fight. He would put together a record of 9-5, which was not too shabby. His father would just tell him to make sure he was not fighting only for the money, as it was not worth it. His mother was not too happy, but his parents did not stop him from pursuing this different avenue in his career. Soon after wrestling in multiple promotions, WWE approached him. He worked a dark match and was apparently offered a contract. He confirmed he signed a 3-year deal with WWE on June 17, 2009. He then went to FCW. He debuted a new character after wrestling under the name Torado. He unmasked and became Alberto Banderas. The decision to unmask himself was criticized by Mexicans, but he went on to make untelevised appearances on Raw. He would put the mask back on for WWE's tour of Mexico, where he worked as a hometown hero. While he hated his time in FCW, he said it was good for him to learn the WWE style of wrestling. He would later take a shot at Sin Cara about FCW, saying that the fact that he had gone straight to the main roster had worked against him, and had he worked in FCW, he might have been in a better position. Del Rio made his debut in WWE in June 2010 in a promotional video. They hyped him as the Unmasked Star and gave his Alberto Del Rio name, with him debuting officially August 20th on SmackDown. Del Rio made his entrance in an expensive car, and was introduced by his personal ring announcer Ricardo Rodriguez. There he defeated Rey Mysterio in the main event via submission. His first WWE feud was against Rey, giving him a storyline injury. He would go on to injure Christian, and his cross armbar was booked as one of the most devastating submissions. The first time he wrestled for the world title, he faced Edge, Kane, and Rey in a fatal 4-way that was won by Edge. Del Rio was clearly rising in the company, and in 2011 he became the first person to win a 40-man Royal Rumble. He had a world title match against Edge at WrestleMania but was not able to win. He would lose again to Christian for a world title, but it was clear Del Rio was going to be big. He then won Money in the Bank. While his first cash-in attempt was unsuccessful, he ultimately cashed in on CM Punk after Kevin Nash had taken him out, winning his first world title in the company, becoming WWE champion. Unfortunately, he lost it to Cena the next month, winning it back 2 months later, and then lost it to CM Punk. That was the last time he won the WWE title, and it would be a forgettable run. Sheamus started to beat Del Rio regularly. Del Rio began to turn babyface, and he defeated the Big Show to win the World Heavyweight title. He would go on to have a proper run with the belt. He faced Jack Swagger for the title at WrestleMania and retained, but fans had enough. WWE decided to pull the trigger, and Dolph Ziggler cashed in the following night on Del Rio, winning the title. Del Rio won the belt back after Ziggler got concussed. He would then lose it to Cena. Del Rio, after losing the title, didn't have much of a role in the company and continued to lose matches. He was released for slapping a worker who had made a racist joke towards him. Thankfully, WWE hired him back after a year on the Indies, with him returning at Hell in a Cell, managed by Zeb Coulter. He won John Cena's US title in shocking fashion. It was one of the best moments, then went away immediately after he joined the League of Nations. Things fell quickly, and he had another boring feud with Swagger. He lost the title to Kalisto twice, and the League of Nations soon broke up without a reason. He was then suspended for violating the wellness policy, and he released himself from the company using an opt-out clause. During the release, he was in a relationship with Paige, as WWE was unhappy with that and the influence he might have had on Paige. He won the GFW Global and GFW World title after signing with Impact. Due to a domestic violence incident, he was suspended and stripped of the title. Del Rio and Paige also split up at this time. He would return but later no-showed a Lucha Underground vs. Impact event, after which he was fired. In 2020, in a moment no one was expecting, Del Rio was arrested on May 9th for sexually assaulting and kidnapping a woman. Police said Rodriguez then tied the woman's hands with boxing straps, put a sock in her mouth, and sexually assaulted her for several hours using various objects. According to investigators, he also punched her in the back during the assault, causing visible injuries. The victim told detectives she does not remember much after he placed his hand around her throat. TMZ reported the attack lasted for over 16 hours, as he tried to burn her passport and smashed her laptop. He also apparently threatened to take her son and drop him off in the middle of the road somewhere if she didn't do what he said. Once the accusations came out, Paige stated she was also the victim of Del Rio's assaults. It's like it's up to 6-7 hours a day, you're literally trapped in a certain room and getting your butt beat every couple of minutes, you know what I mean? However, Del Rio denied the accusation. It was the other way around. I have the evidence, not just words. I would say, Rhea, why? Why? Why are you doing this, Rhea? And I'm not calling you Paige because you were never Paige to me, you were Rhea. Why would you hurt me in a moment like this? Del Rio has since stated publicly that the woman who accused him has dropped her claims and the charges. However, even after this, the court proceedings have continued and are scheduled to take place on October 25th. Del Rio would note, it's still going, it's still pending, but we're just waiting. Everything is looking good. I've said what I needed to say in the past. Unfortunately, I can no longer talk about it because every time I say something, it affects my case. I went out and I said what I was approved to say. That ended up hurting me a little bit. All I can say is that the truth always comes to light. We're doing good. The authorities in Texas are doing their job. He said the reason it continued was because it was up to the state to decide if they would continue proceedings. It doesn't matter. When it comes to cases like that, especially with the women's movement and everything going on, when it comes to family law, it doesn't matter if I drop the charges or she drops the charges. The state follows it and it doesn't end until the state says that it's over. It doesn't matter if someone goes and drops the charges. It's up to the state to decide when it's over. To me, I just respect the law in the great state of Texas. To me, it shouldn't be like that. With Del Rio waiting for the charges to be cleared, his wrestling career is at a standstill. Does he regret his life choices? He does, but he feels the blame lies elsewhere. Paige and I could have built an empire together because of our talents, because of what was around us, but unfortunately due to these situations, instead of taking advantage and growing as a couple, we did the opposite. We dedicated ourselves to doing things that were productive neither for our careers nor for our lives. He has also said he is unable to say anything more about his relationship about Paige thanks to a deal he made with her, though he went on to accuse her of breaking that agreement. For this reason, and also for the love for the beginning, for the two parties, to protect them, we did it and signed a confidentiality agreement for $1 million. After signing it, I found out that Paige didn't own a house, she didn't have a car, she didn't have more than $70,000 in the bank, and the one who really had to lose something was me, because thank God WWE, Impact, AAA, all of those companies made me great and gave me to win. But that money belongs to my children. It is the future of my children. It is for them to become someone. If the relationship ends, it hits me. My family hits me. And although everyone told me why I didn't say anything, because that's why. Because I was tied to that contract. Whoever I spoke to was going to come immediately to tail. So that's why I say thank you, Paige, because you broke that confidentiality agreement. You freed me to take action if I'm attacked again by you or by yours. In that relationship between me and Paige, there was a person who was arrested 3 times in San Antonio, Las Vegas, and Orlando for domestic violence. It was not me. There was a person who was 7 police reports for domestic violence in San Antonio. Del Rio has not given up hope, and according to Meltzer, he's telling people he could return to WWE. While I don't believe this at all, but Alberto El Patron is telling people that he's going to WWE when his legal situation regarding the alleged assault on an ex-girlfriend in San Antonio is cleared up. It would actually shock me if WWE would use him. Not that anything is impossible and WWE could get away with it while any other US company would be excoriated for it. But I don't think that's a direction that makes any sense for them at this point. Whether he returns or not remains to be seen, but what's certain is that his career is one huge what could have been thanks to his fall from grace. And this was the rise and fall of Alberto Del Rio. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.